These may not be the absolute correct names for everything, but these are the names I'm going to be using to refer to the parts of the Stirling engine, this Stirling engine. So you have some kind of a cylinder right here, and inside the cylinder is a displacer, and the extra space inside the cylinder is filled with air, which is called the working fluid. The air moves around in there. The displacer's job is just to displace, to push the air from one place to another. And the case of the Stirling engines we made, this was usually a can. There's a power piston. The power piston is a balloon with the neck cut off. The power piston is attached to these piston rods right here, little pieces of wire that go up to the crankshaft. So two power piston rods that go up to the crankshaft. This is the crankshaft. It's got some bends in it here, little cranks. And the center is, I suppose, the displacer rod, but instead of using a rod all the way, this is fishing line. As the displacer rod moves up and down, the fishing line moves up and down, and the displacer just uses gravity to drop, and then the fishing line pulls it back up. The crankshaft is attached to the flywheel. The flywheel spins around. The flywheel has a couple of counterweights that are glued on here to counter the weight of the displacer hanging down. I think that's it. So, and number two, the question was, what kind of a displacer do you want? If this is the can, this is the volume that you have for the cylinder, what kind of a displacer is best? And the exact size would be beyond the scope of this class to determine. But generally, if your displacer is really, really big, then you have very little air inside the can. And the air is the working fluid that makes all this happen. If you don't have any working fluid, then there's nothing to expand and contract and make this machine work. We'll get to how it works in a little while. So just at this point, the balloon needs to puff out and then suck in, and puff out and suck in as the air inside heats up and cools off. There just isn't much air in this one. Now in this, the displacer is pretty small, so as the displacer moves up and down, the air, let me put it in a high position, when it's up here, the air is in this area, right in here. And then when the displacer moves to the bottom, the air goes up to this area right here. So the air is only going this far. If this is hot and this is cold, we want the air to go from way down here to way up there, to way down here to way up there. This one does a good job of that. When the displacer is down, the air is way at the top. When the displacer is up, the air is way at the bottom. There just isn't much air. Here, the air is not moving very far because the displacer is not very big, so it's just shifting a little bit. This represents maybe a good balance. It's about half. If this is the height of the can, the cylinder, the displacer is about half that height. So when it's at the top, got a good amount of working fluid down at the bottom where it's hot, and then when the displacer comes down, you've got a good amount of working fluid up at the top where it's cool. So it's moving a pretty good distance, and you've got a decent amount of working fluid to expand and contract. This question was asking how big do you make the offsets for the cranks? I've labeled this bend B right here. And sorry, I'm tightening up my camera. There's this bend from, here's the crankshaft, and then there's an offset that goes through there. So from the side view, if this were the axle, this offset, bend B, goes up here. And as you turn the crankshaft around, that's going to make the displacer piston move around in a circle like this. It'll go up and it'll go down. So right now it's at the high point. And the way you figure that out is by thinking about how far you want the displacer to move. This picture shows the high point, this is the low point. So if I use the bottom of the displacer as a reference point, there's the bottom, this is the maximum travel distance. If I try to pull it any higher than that, it's going to bang against the top, and that's going to be a bad thing to do. And if I try to make it go any lower than that, it's going to bump into the bottom. So I don't want it to go any farther up and down than that. Now, since this is moving up and down by rotating around this axis, the offset distance right here is this radius, and this diameter is the full travel distance. So it's going to go this high when it's at the high point, this high above the axle, the low point that far below the axle. So what I want to do is get the overall travel distance and divide it by 2. So the correct offset's no more than about half of the travel distance. If it's more than that, then again, you're trying to pull this thing into the top, which is going to cause problems, or push it into the bottom. Really, the string can't push, but the pulling will be an issue. Next question is related to the other bends. So this was the one I just addressed right here, how far that crank should stick out for the displacer piston. Now for the 2 power pistons, how far out does this little bend need to go? How big should that distance be? And you figure that out the same way. You get your cylinder with your power piston on there, heat the thing up and see how far it bulges up, and then cool the thing off and see how far it sucks down, and then get some point of reference, which I'm going to use the top of this spot and the top of that. So it's going from a maximum height of here to a maximum depth of there. That's the overall distance it's going to go up and down. And since this is a rotational kind of motion, again, if there's the axle looking from the end of it, if this point right here is going around in a circle, and I want this to be the total travel distance, then this bend should be about half of that. So it should be 1/2 the distance between the lowest point and the highest point. No more than that. If you do it more than that, then you're stretching the balloon farther than it wants to go, and it's not helping. You're working against it. And down here, you're pushing the balloon farther than it wants to go, so you're going to lose energy. And if you make it smaller than that, then you're not getting the full benefit of this push and this pull. Here we have, let's see, what are we asked? Each diagram, tell whether the fluid is heating up or cooling down, tell whether the power piston is about to inflate or deflate. So I didn't show in the diagram, and initially I didn't show the heat source, but here's some candles. So when the displacer's up, the air is down, the working fluid's down, it's going to heat up. It's going to cause the molecules to move faster. They're going to push against the sides of this can. That's going to increase pressure. That's going to push the balloon out. So this balloon is about to inflate. Hasn't inflated yet, so we just move this up. This hasn't had time to heat up, but it's going to really soon, and then the balloon's going to puff out. So this is just fallen, which has made the air go to the top, which is the cool area. So the molecules are going to slow down. They're going to push against the walls with less force. The pressure is going to drop. The air is going to contract. The balloon is going to get sucked down, but it hasn't happened yet because this air just moved into the cool area. Now, if you really understand a Stirling engine, you should be able to figure out which way this is going to go. So assuming that this is set up with the heat down at the bottom, zooming in on this, the question is, which way is this flywheel right here going to rotate? And you can see I've shown it's going to go counterclockwise based on this orientation. And the way I know that is that this crank for the displacer, the center rod, is up. That means that the displacer is in that position, which means that the air is heating up on the bottom, which means that the top is about to puff out. So if the balloon puffs out, that's going to push the power piston rods, these two, upward. And since the offset, let me zoom in so you can see that really well. That's it, I guess. It's going this way. This is coming over to the right of the axis from our viewpoint. Let me draw it on in. There's the axle, and here's the way the bend is sticking out. If you push up on this, and you're rotating this whole thing like that, counterclockwise. The next question is about the counterweights. Where are they in this picture? Well, if the displacer is up, then the counterweights are down. They're opposite the displacer. Whenever the displacer is up, the counterweights are down because their job is to balance out that displacer. This picture, the question here is if the heat source is at the bottom, which way is this going to rotate? So now we have the displacer down. Here's the displacer piston rod, it's down. If the displacer is down, then the air is at the top where it's going to be cooling off, and cooling air is going to cause this balloon to suck inward, to suck down. That's going to pull both of these power piston rods down. And then you've got to look at the offset there. These power piston rods are over a little bit to the right of the axle. So again, looking at a view that's looking at the thing like this. Here's the axle. Here is this part right here. This is getting pulled down, so it's going to go this way. Pull down to the right of the axis. You go clockwise. And where are the counterweights? Well, the displacer is down, so the counterweights must be at the top of this flywheel on the other side. That's it. The rest of this was covered in class in a different video.